Hi, Susan.
Hi,
Hi.
Heidi. Hi,
Thank you for,
Heidi.
hi, thank you for joining me today. And I am just quickly going to jump in and just frame Susan's and my conversation for you watching. We are going to be talking about healing, safety, and the power of presence. And we're going to be talking about it specifically as it relates to how we know each other and how the arc of our lives. And I just want to mention before we get into anything more that our conversation is going to include a brief mention of a past suicide attempt. And it'll be shared within the context of long-term healing and a lot of sense of possibility and hope. But I just want you to know that there will be a mention of that before you watch more. So the way, as I was thinking about our conversation today, Susan, I just was like trying to think of a way to frame it. And I knew that it had to do with full circle.
Mhm.
Where our story starts, where we met was 30 years ago, a little over 30 years ago, actually. And I just never could have predicted at that time that you and I would be here having this conversation, and we'll be getting into a little bit more of exactly what I mean by here. So we're going to be talking about what happens when someone who quietly shapes your life in the past shows up decades later and asks for your help. And your is me here, and the person who quietly shaped my life 3 decades ago now is Susan. So, Susan, is it okay if I introduce you?
Sure.
You're going to be able to say a lot more, but I just want to give people a context. Susan was my boss when I was in my 20s. I am in my 50s now. This was about 30 years ago. And her calm and compassionate presence at work helped me survive one of the darkest, very dark stretch of years in my life. And years later, now, after so much healing and transformation, in particular of my nervous system, which is related to the work I do now, Susan signed up for my nervous system program um, a few months ago. And so now I am getting to support her. So this conversation really is a testament to the power of someone's presence in your life. And I just want to also say that the work relationship that we had was not around therapy or counseling. This was actually yeah, I was an administrative coordinator in an administrative coordinating center, and Susan had a very important science-based role in that work. So it wasn't like she was counseling me or taking care of me in any way, and yet her presence is just even before we got back in touch. When I thought back over the years, her her name and her presence in my life just really rises to the top whenever I think about formative people and people that were really safe for me at a time when I didn't even think of things in relation to safety and the importance of connection and co-regulation. Do you want to add anything to my introduction or?
Mhm. It's a very beautiful introduction. It's a beautiful scenario and situation that we're in. It just moves me very much. So, um, I don't have a lot to add. I don't know if you want me to talk a little bit about that period too, or if you have specific questions about that, or
Yeah, I would love to talk about that period. I'm just going to frame it a little bit just so that people have a general sense
okay.
of what specifically, in what way, maybe, not maybe, in what way Susan was just what really stands out even after all these years as you being helpful. Because Certainly, there was no one recording anything there. This was just day-to-day life before cell phones, before anything. And what just stands out in my memory is just so, so distinct.
Mm.
Um, so let's see. I'm looking, when you see me glancing to the side, it's because I do have a couple of bullet point notes here that I just want to be sure to touch on, and also just to anchor me if I lose my train of thought, which sometimes happens when I'm a little bit nervous, just a little bit. So, yeah. So to fill in anyone who's watching, this was in my early to mid 20s. And it was a period of time when I was trying to recover from an eating disorder. And I felt very, very isolated. I grew up as the daughter of missionaries in Chile. And these were some of my first years, like certainly the first decade living in the US, and also having distanced myself from the church. So the community that I had, hardly having lived in the States, was very new to me, and everything was new to me. And within that, a context of an eating disorder that I had started developing in my adolescence, which kept increasing to the point where I tried to take my life. So this is the part where kind of that pivotal moment comes in with Susan. And after my suicide attempt, I was hospitalized. It was not a very long hospitalization. Um, it was maybe several days in. I was trying to remember this part. Maybe someone from the hospital called the place where I worked just to let them know that I was hospitalized. But then before I was discharged, um, as as the staff and doctors were planning my aftercare with me, they said, "We think it's really important for you to have do this outpatient program a couple of afternoons a week." And I said, "Well, I mean, I have to work." And I was just trying to imagine life going back into it. And they said, "Well, have you talked with your boss? Does anyone know what's going on?" And I said, "No." And they said, "Well, could you do that?" And I really felt very, let's see, I was nervous about doing it, but I also had a real sense of trust in Susan.
Mm.
And she didn't know any of these things that were going on, but so it was, I'm trying to convey that it was actually a big step, but there was also like a foundation of trust. So I called her and I asked to meet her for coffee near our workplace, and she did. And she came over, and we were sitting in that little cafe across the Charles River, and I said where I had been. This was probably 3, 4 sentences, like going right to the point, and nothing graphic or anything. But I said, "I'm getting out of the hospital, and for my aftercare, I would like to be in a program that meets twice a week. Um, can we make that? Can can you help?" Or I forget what I said. Maybe Susan even interrupted me in a friendly way and said, "Whatever you need, Heidi, whatever you need." And those are the words that really just have stayed with me over the years. Whatever you need. And then like, we'll figure it out. We will figure it out. Because there was certainly a lot of day to day. There were a lot of shipping. This was early email days. There were a lot of envelopes going out all over the country, and a lot to coordinate. But I left that meeting just feeling like it's okay. A lot of things weren't okay, and there was just no sense of shame or judgment, just a complete whatever you need. We'll figure it out.
Mm.
And I just have such gratitude for that. Is there anything that you want to add about that part of the arc of our story?
I just, I didn't know a lot about what was going on. I believe somebody did call me from the hospital and said something, but not in any detail. And then I think for me, I was just so grateful to be able to support you. That stayed with me for a long time, that I was in a position to actually be able to support you when you needed that support. And that meant a lot to me too.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember, worrying about you and caring about you. And I don't think I shared with anyone what was going on. It was really between us.
Right.
And and it all worked out. I don't remember it being an issue at all.
Somehow the envelopes got mailed.
Oh my gosh. It was a
The
time
conference
when,
calls got
yes,
scheduled.
it was a time when there were people who only got things by snail mail and some people by fax, and only a few people could get things by email. I don't know if you remember that. Like it was, but anyway, yeah, it all got done. It was all
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
It happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm not sharing that part of the story to like dwell on the pain. I'm actually sharing it to honor that moment and the impact of it, the impact of that sense of safety. And that what I would call now, even though it was in a situation that had very specific boundaries, there was also this co-regulation that was able to happen in like that I felt safe, that there was something about you and you knowing just certain things about what was going on that helped me feel safer in the world, and supported in starting to take those first steps after that point.
Yeah.
And so over the years, I did a lot of healing work, and some including psychotherapy. And I became a massage therapist and really, really just started having a sense of how our bodies hold so much of those early survival patterns that might have been put in place when the people maybe around us, the people who were raising us, maybe our parents or caretakers, or maybe just the situation we were in, did not meet essential needs that we had, or at least not consistently, and how our bodies just brace and hold it in, or find what at the moment might be an adaptive way to cope with something, but then it starts not being so adaptive and actually keeping a person stuck. So there was a lot of healing and learning about how my body was an ally to me in healing. And then the most recent work that I've done with myself and then now with other people is from a nervous system perspective, which has been such a relief in relation to what I opened this arc with, which was a lot of mental health issues and an eating disorder and relationship issues. Um, and from a nervous system perspective, that has allowed so much friendliness and like a sense of no wonder for what I was going through and for some of the really, really hard places that I went to. And also just the not even more than importance, like the essential part that a person and other people, safe people, can play in our healing. And maybe some of those people don't even know at the time or ever that they are that for us. So I'm gonna, can I say a little bit about, or maybe you want to say how we met up again? Like, because we were out of touch for many years. Like after I left and you moved.
Yeah, we're on different parts of the country and all of that. But somehow we, I don't know, I saw something that you were posting about your nervous system reset program, and it was called Ready, Set, Go or something like that.
Ready, set, pause.
Ready, Set, Pause. Anyway, it sounded really intriguing to me. And because, I mean, I can talk a little bit, well, maybe I'll wait and talk about how I got there, but
Yeah.
I, I was just very, as someone, and you didn't know any of this about me, I had my own early traumatic experiences that I've been working with in my whole life, through therapy and various approaches, and which were helpful, some including traumatic therapy approaches. But there were ways that I was still feeling like my wiring, my nervous, like I was very good at intellectually understanding what happened and making sense of it and all of that, and felt like I had a really good handle on it. But there were still ways that my body and my nervous system were reacting in situations that seemed sort of separate from my intellectual understanding of things. And, they could be something like being nervous, just being in a car with someone else driving, like I would have a reactivity, or watching a scary movie. But the thing that was most sort of compelling for me that led me to want to sign up for your class was just realizing that when I was in an interaction with someone where there was anger towards me, um, or the situation was confusing, or somehow it made me feel afraid, that I would just freeze. And I would feel like I was about 5 years old. And even though I'm a very accomplished person and have a lot of skills and abilities and success in my life. In those moments, I would feel like I was about 5, completely overwhelmed, with no access to any language to even begin to respond.
Mm,
That just felt frustrating to me and concerning. And so when I saw your posting about the class, I thought, maybe there's something in here that I could learn that would be helpful to me. And, but of course, as we know, it was an in-person class on your side of the country, and I couldn't actually go, but I got on your mailing list,
yeah,
which was good,
yeah,
and then eventually made my way into your program, which
yeah.
has been amazing.
Yeah, I remember you you replied to one of my emails and you were like, "Oh my God, it's so good to like." I think I shared a little bit more openly some of my past, and you said it's so good to hear how you're doing, and I'd love to connect. And so we got on a Zoom together, and so we caught up the whole time. And then I had an appointment, and I was like, Susan, I have to go. And she's like, but you haven't told me about your program. And the whole time I'm thinking, oh, we just want to, she just wanted to catch up. And so then we made another appointment, or like put it in our calendars. And yeah, you heard about, I told you about the program, and then you jumped in. And yeah, yeah, that was,
Yeah, and I do want to say that that moment was so poignant for me too, when we reconnected, and because I had followed, some of your education and your work and your trainings, and also I knew you had all of these incredible skills and abilities. And so once I heard about your program, it was like this incredibly beautiful synthesis of all of these strands of who you are, and that you had pulled them together into this amazing program that's unique and wonderful and so reflects who you are. I mean, what could be a more successful outcome than that, and that the gift of what you're bringing to the world.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Oh, the way you put that into words is just so beautiful to hear back. And it
Yes.
feels it feels that way to me too, in the sense of getting to give back in such a specific way that's also so different than a lot of the not so great help that I might have had over the years, and a lot of the kind of trying to work things through just intellectually or like thought-based work, um, or you just have to try harder, or you need to think more positive, and all of those things that just ended up actually making the healing process feel heavier for me and left me sort of in a, you know, maybe there wasn't, maybe the dark place that I was going to wasn't going to be the same again, but they always left me with a sense of like, what's wrong with me? Like, why, why isn't that really helping? And that is one thing that this nervous system lens just brings so much friendliness to it. And and I have to add to that too, that maybe that is also something that I emphasize more than other people doing nervous system work, because there's a lot of awesome nervous system work happening now, somatic work. But that aspect of it's not just about awareness, it's about friendly awareness. And that you don't, when you're starting to heal your nervous system, you don't, especially if you come from a lot of trauma,
Mhm.
you don't even have to believe in yourself, or you don't have to believe all the skepticism in the world is actually welcome, because it makes sense that a person that has been in really dark places would be skeptical about something being able to help. And then as people start changing, they experience themselves differently, and they experience their relationships and those same situations differently. And that's something that you don't even believe. Who cares? Like, I have this experience, this is something I can trust. I'm in
Mhm.
this situation that used to trigger me, and it's different. So I wonder if anything like that has been able to happen for you in the last little while since you started your nervous system reset.
Oh, absolutely. And just, I mentioned that I spend a lot of time in my head analyzing things, and I am a scientist. So, when I was considering signing up, it was important to me to look at, some of the research and what's there. And there is some that, was compelling around the safe and sound protocol.
Yeah.
Um, and I also really sort of just the way that you explained it, it really kind of made a lot of sense to me. So I was willing to sort of take that leap of faith and try it. And it really has shifted not only, those situations where I in the past might have been totally overwhelmed and in freeze.
Hmm.
Um, it's also like I just notice myself in in situations like in a social situation where I might have been more like if I didn't know people, might have been a little more had more dis-ease. Uh, there's so much easier now. And riding in a car or a plane with people driving or flying the plane. I never could fly the plane myself anyway, but usually I like being the driver. And I'm totally comfortable being a passenger now. Like I'm not,
Oh,
and it's not even like I'm thinking about it. It's just shifted
yeah,
in this way that it's like, oh, that's different now. It's not the way it used to be.
yeah.
Um, so it's really good. And there are other aspects of the program that, I think this friendly awareness, because I can be a very critical person. And so the reminder of being friendly when I'm having insights about whatever is going on with me um, is a really good reminder for healing and um, making that process more pleasant as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Yeah.
pleasant and also just something that sticks. Like when we try
Yeah.
to shame ourselves into being different or criticize ourselves into being different, it's not like a fundamental change
Yeah.
because there's another part of us that's like, being criticized and being shamed. And so there's the way it feels to me, both my own and from working with my clients, is that there's like an integration that happens when we bring friendliness and presence to every part of us and what is alive and going on right now, which always kind of shows us where the edge is. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I thought of another thing too. So at about the age of 50, I took up the fiddle, which is a very humbling experience.
I
And
didn't know you. Wow. I thought
yeah,
maybe it was all your life. No.
no, no, no.
Oh,
So, and I feel like it's a metaphor for bringing my voice forward. And it doesn't sound really good when you're a beginner and it's hard to, have other people hear how bad you sound like. But I've continued to hold on to this idea that like nobody should ever hear me, and I've been playing now for quite some time. And another thing that I noticed, because normally terror will strike when I'm the thought of anybody hearing me play. And I had this experience where I was in this group and the person who's leading the group asked me to lead off the tunes. And and I like didn't miss a beat. And I was like, okay, sure, I can do that. I didn't have any of the terror that I had to work through. It was just not there. That was huge. That was really different.
wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm getting a huge wow again. I remember when you first told me that story and like not even thinking about it. And there wasn't even
Yeah.
like, oh, let me
Yeah.
make myself do it. Like it was like, huh,
Yeah. And these are not changes I could talk myself into. These
right.
are just like they're changes.
Wow. So
Yeah. So
good.
that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. And most recently, as early as I think this morning, I heard you say you have a gig.
I do. Still a little terrified to say that, but I do. I'm playing
I
with a band now.
I heard you say that. I have a gig coming up.
I do. So I have to practice.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah,
Oh, so good. And you love doing it. You love playing the fiddle.
I do. I do. And I
So,
love it more and more now that I don't have to have all of these yucky, terrified feelings while I'm
yeah. Yeah.
doing. Yeah, it's good. It's really good. So, yeah, so like I'm just love that like we've had this full circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Amazing, amazing like gift. And one that, yeah, I, I remember talking to my husband about it, talking to my new therapist here in town. We haven't been here that long, and like I'm like, oh my God, like I can't believe it. Yeah. So I just wanted to mention just a few things about our work to like the sort of structure of the work that Susan has been doing, just in kind of general terms. But Susan's work has included the Safe and Sound Protocol, which is a music-based intervention, and it's passively received, and it's very it can feel like it's very subtle, like, is this even working? And then the effects of it can just be really, really profound. And there's just continuing research on it in scientific journals. And I think most recently there's a, a control group and like an actual in-person study of at the VA that they're doing using the Safe and Sound protocol with one group and then not with the other and seeing. So just to let people listening know what the components are of the nervous system reset program. And then we have coaching sessions. Like Susan started listening to the protocol, we listened together, and then it's not a drug, but we need to kind of titrate the the frequency and how much listening to do. So we would meet and listen together, and then you did some listening on your own, and then there's also a listening group, a co-regulating lab listening group once a week that people can drop in on. And yeah, so the safe and sound protocol, individual coaching, and then small group coaching and implementation session where we talk about um, just a nervous system perspective on things that are coming up for people in the program. And it's a very safe container for people to bring whatever it is that they feel comfortable speaking of in that group setting, and then we can be with it in a nervous system way. And also combining another important part of my healing and my history is something called focusing, which was developed by a scientist uh, and philosopher named Jean Gendlin. But I incorporate that into helping people learn to listen to their own bodies. So, so between that and a long time being a massage therapist and actually working with bodies, I just feel like this is such a perfect bringing together of things I love to do, and teaching, which I got to do a little of back then in my 20s
Mhm.
with the interviewers, um, after I was the in the administrative role. And yeah, those years were so, yeah, they were so in ways that you and other people on the team that we worked on will never know. Well, now I'm saying it, but some of those work trips that we had just felt sort of, there was a sense of safety and connection that probably served the purpose of family for me, even though it wasn't family. So, yeah.
Mm. It was a very special group of people and we worked really well together. And I always felt like, the whole was greater than the sum of its parts with that group. It was special.
It was.
Yeah.
It
So
was.
I'm so glad that that's where you landed at that time.
Yeah, yeah. That
And me too. It was a wonderful team.
huge gratitude. And if anyone is watching, if anyone who was on that team is watching this, yeah, I could probably have a conversation with you as well. So, yeah, it was. It
Mm.
was. So we've touched on, let me just see if there's anything. Well, I want to ask you what it's like. First of all, like if there's anything else you want to add to why you're doing nervous system work, or just even anything you want to add about that's come back to you that might feel significant to this conversation.
Well, I mean, I think understanding the different parts of or different reactions, types of nervous system reactions, and being able to sort of map where I am and have tools for moving between states.
Yeah.
No, all of that is empowering. And I love the friendly awareness and I love the sort of really understanding that we're wired to look for danger and that
Yeah.
that's, how we're built, but that we can work with that by also looking for cues of safety and growing those cues of safety. And I feel like the practices that we're doing, in the group and in the coaching sessions really grows the capacity in addition to the safe and sound protocol.
Yes.
So that's it's all pretty powerful in a very subtle way.
Yeah.
And also doing it in a group. Like not everything is done in a group, but having that group also, expands the power, I think,
Yeah. Yeah.
and having more language around these things is powerful.
So powerful. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm holding the space for the group, but I also just get so much from, I feel like it's all like same. same. Like people share their glimmers, their celebrations, and then hard things, and like who can relate, and who can't relate. Um,
Right.
yeah, yeah. So thank you. You you rounded out the picture very well of what's going on, and some of those identifying what nervous system state you're in. Like before I had this nervous system lens, I didn't understand like the difference between being regulated and dysregulated. I
Yeah.
just thought, what's wrong with me that I'm so stressed out all the time, right?
It's
And this like finding where you are on the nervous system map can be hugely like there's a relief just in knowing where you are. Even if you're lost and you look at a map and like you are here, that's it just in a nervous system in the nervous system territory, that's also a huge relief. And then
Mhm.
that helps us know how to get back to safety and regulation. And what I love experiencing and watching happen for other people is that then regulation starts being the default,
Yeah.
right? That's the place that's home base. Where before it was like, for me at least, back and forth between sympathetic and activated and anxious and shutting down and numbing and, checking out and back and forth. So now safety is home base. And I still go to those other places. And as I always say, like we would be dead if our nervous systems didn't get dysregulated when they need to. Because
Right.
it gives us a cue that we need to, do something or return to safety. So
Right.
yeah. So were you thinking of something else?
Mhm.
I just want to mention that next week I am offering the Real Life Joy Lab, and it's a 5-day experience where we are going to be, from a nervous system perspective, helping people that register for it be able to experience joy. So if you've been like stuck in go, 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 or in shutdown, if things have been really challenging, the last few months, in particular here in the States, around the world, have just been so challenging for so many people. And one of the biggest myths about joy is that everything has to be perfect in order for us to feel joy,
Mhm.
or even about being regulated, that everything needs to be perfect in order to feel regulated and safe, and that's actually not the case. So if 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 this is before June 16th, feel free to register for that. If you're watching this and you're curious about the Real Life Joy Lab, I'll put a link so that you can sign up or check it out and sign up. And and I also have other free resources on my website, HeidiFischbach.com. There's a trail guide to your nervous system, which will help you find where you are when you're in a stressed out state, where on the nervous system map you are. So that's a free resource. So check it out. And I have a weekly-ish newsletter, The Aware Withal, that I send to people who are registered to receive it. So those are some ways that you can dip your toe in, like Susan was. Susan had her toe dipped in for a while. She was on my mail list, and then one day she was like, I want to know about this program. So yeah, yeah. So before we go, let's both have I don't know, just something we want to take away or remember, and maybe even 20 years from now it'll come back to us, and we'll remember this moment of connection.
Yeah, I just have a tremendous amount of gratitude for you, Heidi, and the just that you're here in the world doing bringing your gifts and that we have this connection that was meaningful for both of us so long ago, and now we still have a connection that's still really meaningful.
Hmm.
I so appreciate, I just have so much gratitude about that.
Yeah,
I don't know, it gives me hope and joy to see that full circle. Yeah.
yeah, me too. I feel that way. Just that the full circleness of this, it feels in a way like having this conversation now is a way to like go back in time and be like, it's okay. It's okay. It's gonna be,
Yeah. And for people who are at that point in time, that there is hope and joy ahead
yeah.
and people to support
Yes. Yes.
and just finding your way to those people. But it did feel really like serendipity that we connected when we did too.
Yeah.
There was just something
Yeah.
very special about that
Yeah.
for both of us at both
Oh
junctures.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I love that.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Susan, for having this conversation with me, for allowing me giving kind of a context to this part of my story, which I haven't talked about all that often, and an incredibly, I think, hopeful um, and practical, right? Practical kind of framing of what can be dark times for people, like just being a person with presence and being present for a conversation and what do you need, you know, it can make just such a difference for someone else.
Mhm. Mm.
Thank you, and I know I'll be seeing, I'm lucky enough to be seeing you soon.
I look forward to that.
Okay, bye bye, Susan.
Bye bye.